to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, all you Road to Growth listeners. Today we have the rare occasion where we have multiple guests on this podcast. We got Douglas and Lisa Marie Hatcher, co-founders Communicate4IMPACT Storytelling. You know, we've had so many entrepreneurs on this platform, and the one synergy they all have is how do they tell their story. So I think this is a fantastic episode. If you're just kind of breezing through, trying to find out if this is the right one for you, this is probably going to connect you through all the other entrepreneurs. So thank you, Douglas and Lisa, for being here.
Awesome. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So storytelling. What, I mean, I've had a lot of different coaches on, a lot of different kind of advisors, people helping, guiding, but you guys are hyper-focused on helping people tell their stories.
Yeah,
correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. It's become such a buzzword. And I think if you asked 10 different, people who are in this space, they'd probably give you 10 different definitions of what storytelling is. I mean, for us, we have several ways of kind of looking at it, but the main way is that, at least when it comes to a business, that business storytelling is the art and science of making things matter and moving people to act. So it's both. It's making sure that you're relatable, you're empathetic, you put your customer first on the one end, but then you also have to, you're in real estate, you got to close the deal. And that's where the second part, to move them to take an action, whether that's buy something, subscribe to something, click on something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know there's the idea of what your elevator pitch, right? A lot of people kind of push through, kind of telling your story in a short window of time, but you guys take that to the next degree, right?
Yeah. Lisa, you want to talk about story hacks for a sec?
Yeah, sure. So our storytelling training is really, really simple, and we want to make it as simple to learn and as applicable as possible. So we have honed it down to what we call 3 story hacks. And these are just simply 3 narrative structures. They're as old as time. We have story hack number 1, and but therefore, story hack number 2, what, so what, now what, and story hack number 3, once upon a time. And all of these work to help you get unstuck when you're trying to create content. And as business owners and business people, especially entrepreneurs, you have to create your own content 9 times out of 10. So it's really important to have these structures that you can use right away. And I think the simplest one is and, but, therefore. And it is so, so simple. And I would like to give you an example if I could. Our daughter had to go get a COVID test, and we promised her a milkshake after she got the COVID test. And we have a twins rule in our house, so if somebody gets something, the other one gets it too sometimes. So I was on a mission to go get 2 milkshakes, right? So I could tell the story like this to you. I could say, I got in the car, it was really hot, and I went to McDonald's, and I went to Burger King, and I got milkshakes, and I came home and I cleaned the car seats. That doesn't tell you a lot. I just kind of gave you a lot of ands, and this happened, and then this happened. But if you use a story structure like and, but, therefore, it's a whole different ballgame. So let me give you an example. I actually wrote it out, and this is all very, very true. So how about this? I want you to listen for and but, and therefore, those words. And instead of therefore, I might say so or that's why.
And very, very quickly, so the and is your setup, it's the context, it's the situation. The but is the turn, it's where something happens. Generally, it's a challenge or a problem. And then the therefore, or that's why, or so, or as a result, is the consequence or the resolution.
Right. So here's the story a different way. I got in the car and the outdoor temperature gauge registered 100 degrees. I drove to McDonald's to get some milkshakes, but because of the heat and demand for cold treats, they were out of milkshakes and sundaes. So I drove to Burger King, hoping they would have some shakes. I was delighted when I passed through the drive-thru and was able to place my order. I pulled up to the pass-through window, and a cardboard tray holding 2 milkshakes was presented to me in plastic domed open tops. I placed the cardboard tray on the passenger seat, thinking I could take the shakes out and put them in the car's cup holders for better stability. But when I did that, one of the shakes tipped, and because it was so hot, the already melted shake started pouring onto the car seat, running quickly through the crack between the lower part of the seat and the upper back onto the rear floorboard. There weren't enough napkins in the world to clean it up, and I watched helplessly, thinking of how the stickiness would forever be in the car upholstery. That's why I immediately called my husband from the car saying, "Meet me in the driveway with as many towels as you can find and a big bucket of water." Many buckets of water and towels later, I was able to clean the car's interior, but I will always ask for closed cup lids going forward, so I will never have to go through that again. So what was the difference in those two stories besides the length of them? The first time it was just this happened and then this happened and this happened. But when you apply a story structure and but therefore, which I repeated 3 times, by the way, through that story, it gives you something to paint a picture in people's minds. So Vinny, did you kind of picture the milkshake running through the cracks of the seat and dripping on the floorboard and how stressful that would be?
Yeah.
Did you get that image in your mind? And that's what you want to do when you're telling a story, is you want to connect with your audience. You want to captivate their attention so they keep listening. And then you want to, convert them into taking the action that you want. So that's why storytelling is so important. And it doesn't have to be as long as the story I just shared. It could be 3 sentences, which could be your elevator pitch, right? So you can use the structure to almost anything, any type of content that you're creating for your business.
So kids love telling stories for the most part. Not as eloquent as that, of course, but they love telling stories. So when you two were younger, were you telling a lot of stories, making up stories, maybe a little, or how are you guys growing up?
A couple things. I mean, first of all, my dad was an Episcopal priest, so I got a lot of stories on Sunday, stories in the Bible, sermons. I got some sermons at home too. So there's that. What we say, Vinny, is that all we're doing is helping people take what they do naturally and apply it to what they do professionally. In other words, we all do that. We do it as kids. We do it as adults with a beer in our hand at the bar. What happens is, in business, we forget 2 things. One is to put our audience first. That's a lot of businesses think it's sort of about them. It's not. It's about your customers, about your audience. The second thing is, when you get to the but or the turn, almost invariably, as we said earlier, that's going to be a problem or a challenge. It is difficult for companies to talk about challenges that they've been through, because sometimes they think it might make you look weak, when in fact, it just makes you look human.
Right.
And we tell people it's not about telling your life story, it's about using struggle strategically. So it's something we do naturally, but it's also difficult for companies to get a hold of.
No, I can fully appreciate that. And for you, Douglas, and before this, right, before you started this business with Lisa, you were in a religious family, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So growing up in that religious family, hearing the stories, I mean, you had to refine this kind of way of telling the stories. It's this idea of or however you put it. Sorry.
Yep. That's okay.
You had to refine that over time, correct?
Yep.
Okay. At a younger age, how were you telling stories? Did you always know you wanted to help people tell their stories, or where did that come from?
So no, I didn't think I would, be in this particular space. Interestingly enough, my dad actually studied what he called narrative theology. So he basically studied storytelling. From a New Testament standpoint, I mean, the greatest storyteller, in the New Testament is Jesus. And he explains things that are very complex using relatable terms that his audience can understand. So he's putting, even, Jesus is putting his audience first. So it's a natural thing for all of us to do. When I tell stories as a kid or as an adult, a lot of it's either about sports or politics, less so politics when I was a kid, but it's about sports. And you don't just say, the Yankees beat the Red Sox 3-2. You're going to say, it was the bottom of the ninth. The bases were loaded. It was a walk-off home run. It was incredible. Like you don't just give the score, you give some context and you give the story. So it's for me as a kid, it was all about sports and telling those stories.
What, Lisa, for yourself? Okay, so Douglas had the religion, had the politics, and had the sports.
Right. He's a speechwriter. He's a speechwriter by trade too. So he's been used to writing things for other people to help inspire people and motivate people. So he's been doing that for a long time. I have been in sales and account development for my entire career I won't say how many years, but so I was actually using business storytelling in my jobs before business storytelling was a coined phrase. I mean, I don't think I heard business storytelling, any earlier than 6 years ago or 7 years ago. But when you're in sales and you're giving pitches, or when you're in account development and you're trying to grow business, you are using business storytelling because you are, as Douglas said, using the art and science of making things matter and moving people to act. That's what you have to do. So I was using business storytelling long before I'd even heard of the term. And I left the workforce for a while when our twins were born to raise them. And then when they started school and Douglas got into doing this, he kind of pulled me in. So I was doing behind the scenes work beforehand, the really fun stuff like the accounting and the taxes and, all that stuff. But as I watched him do it, he's like, come help me do this. Come help me do these courses and these live workshops. And so I got a little more involved and I really love it. And I wish I had known these story structures a long time ago, because they would have made my job easier a long time ago when I was in sales and account development. Because even if you can come up with these narratives, it takes a lot of time. And if you're under a deadline or under pressure, it's really hard to find the words with something that is really familiar to you. It still can be difficult to translate that in a way that will motivate other people to find it interesting and act upon it. So we've had people say time and time again when they take our workshops, I wish I had known about this last week when I had to write so-and-so or when I had to get up and give a speech, because it really simplifies the process.
You can tell, at least from the couple of communications I've had with you guys before we got on camera and during this interview, that Lisa, you had that sales background. Douglas, the storytelling, kind of walking it through. Now, so the next question is going to be, how did you two meet? And who asked who? What happened there?
Oh, gosh. It's, do you want to tell them the whole story or the second part of the story?
Oh, we'll tell them the whole story. So we met on Match.com. And there's no affiliate relationship with Match.com. Maybe I wish there were. Okay, but this was a long time ago. I don't know.
Call me. I want an affiliate. No.
Yeah, 18 years. I mean, a long time ago. And we went on a few dates and
3 dates.
3 dates. And I think, honestly, I thought there might be more there, and I don't think I was ready for it, so I bailed. And I wasn't
that interested anyway. It was just take it or leave it. I mean,
before we get into that, okay, on those platforms, it's all about sales, about telling your story.
Right, right.
So how would you rank, Lisa? Let's go with Lisa first. How would you rank Douglas's story on his profile?
It was very cocky, very arrogant. Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, you remember
it was Rye Spry Guy. WRY, Rye Spry Guy, because
she remembers, but she remembers it. That's the point.
And there was no photo. There was no profile photo.
Oh,
but anyway, let's simplify this. So we went on like 3 dates. He didn't call back. I could care less. I wasn't that interested. Right.
Yep.
He goes on, has a pretty serious relationship. I go on, have a pretty serious relationship. And then one day, 3 years later,
Yeah.
I have a voicemail. Hi, this is a blast from the past.
Oh wow.
Blah blah Douglas, blah blah blah, and I listened to it. I said, who is this person? Who is this? And I went to my best friend and I go, did I ever date someone named Douglas? Because I don't remember it. Yeah, he was the guy that blah blah blah. And I was like, what on earth does he want? Why is he calling me out of the blue? What on earth? So I did not call him back. And then my friend said, well, why don't you call him back? What do you have to lose? So 3 days later, maybe I called him back and I left a voicemail and said, I have no idea why you called me. I'm calling you back so I don't seem rude, whatever. Right. So then he called back and we got in a phone conversation. And I think we talked for 2 or 3 hours. And then we went on a date. And then I couldn't get rid of him. I think we were together every day after that. And I guess he was ready and I was ready. And we dated for about 9 months, got engaged, and were married 14 months later after our first date the second time around.
And 9 months doesn't mean anything. We didn't have kids.
Oh, no. And then the babies were born 4 years later on our 4th wedding anniversary. Yes.
So anyone in sales, just be aware, key is in the follow-up. Right, Douglas?
Yes. Thank you.
Maybe don't wait 3 years. I don't know.
Vinny, you just saved me, man. Thank you.
That was really good, Vinny. Yeah.
All right. So
That's true too.
Douglas, okay. Before we get on to where we went from there, how would you rank? Because again, this is before you guys met each other, and storytelling is huge in those profiles.
Yep.
Right. How would you rate Lisa's storytelling, if you recall it, in her profile?
It was very good, and it was so good that I also remember what her handle was. I believe it was Baylight Girl. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like a mentalist here. Let me think. No, it was Baylight Girl. It was very, it was good storytelling. I don't think you had a picture.
Oh, yes, I did.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Look,
back when I was young and glamorous. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
back in the day.
There you go.
But it was Baylight Girl because I loved going we lived in the DC area at the time, and I loved crossing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge at night because the lights on the bay were just gorgeous. So Baylight Girl.
There you go. Yeah. It was excellent.
All right. So you guys are together now. At that time, you were still in sales, Lisa?
Yes, I was still in sales, and Douglas was a speechwriter for a senator.
Okay. So and I know now, Douglas, and for both of you, you're helping entrepreneurs or business owners tell their stories. What's the difference, and is there even a difference from politics, where you're having a politician kind of tell their stories and on a daily basis or weekly basis, compared to a company putting the story together and kind of having an overview of it, I guess?
It's a great question. And since I apparently have a cocky streak in me, I will give you somewhat of a cocky answer. Typically, they're both not very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Politicians will load up their speeches with facts and data, because they're just kind of wired for that, and they think that's what their constituents are looking for, and they don't want to get tripped up. The storytelling component is what you need to actually touch people and reach people. I'll give you a great example from a presidential standpoint. During a convention, one of the biggest opportunities for storytelling for a candidate running for president is that, the first night when they run the bio, they have that big, bio of where the person was from and what they did and how they did it and all this stuff. That's a great opportunity for storytelling. The problem is that kind of storytelling doesn't always translate onto the Senate floor or the campaign trail. For companies, it's sort of the same thing. It's just difficult for people, especially to get to the butt, to get to the turn, because they're wired to think that that is sort of a sign of weakness, as opposed to a bridge that says, I'm a person and you're a person. We understand what it's like to go through these things, but we persevere and we overcome stuff. So, you can do it. The good ones do it. I'll just put it that way. The good ones do it.
Right.
There's something in NLP. You've heard of NLP, correct? Linguistic programming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is but basically takes everything that was stated before it away, in essence, right? So you're only using. So it's like, I love you, but this, right? I mean, so it takes all that. How, when in the storytelling aspect of it, is it, I guess, a different mindset when you use but, or how does that change, I guess?
Great question, because I think what you're saying, I'll let Lisa jump in, is that in that context, if you say, I love you, and then the other person might even say, okay, I'm waiting for the but.
Yeah.
Like it's a negative thing, as opposed to an opposite thing. So I'll give you one or maybe two examples. Here's one example that we use in our course. And I think this will kind of lay it out. I keep this old ratty pair of running shoes, even though they're completely worn out. I've been tempted so many times to throw them away, but I don't, because these were the shoes I wore when I trained for my first marathon, when no one thought I could do it. And so I keep them to remind me that I can do anything I set my mind to, no matter the odds. I can tell you, when I wrote that, I didn't know what I was going to write.
Mm-hmm.
I started out with a really great picture of some ratty shoes, really high res, and I'm like, I got to use this. And I wrote down ratty shoes. When I wrote the word but, that becomes a prompt for me to go, I got to think about something different.
Is it you're giving an excuse for a negative thing, in essence? Or am I... It's
not negative. It's not negative. It's a lot of people, Vinny, a lot of people say that we're wired for stories, or we're wired for storytelling, which is true. But here's what we're really wired for. We're really wired for different.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? It means go back 10,000 years. I'm walking by a tall bunch of grass and I hear something. That's, in other words, walking, there's grass. I don't hear anything, so that's the same. And then, I hear something.
Or you see the grass move.
Yeah,
there's
different.
Something there. Yeah.
So it's patterning. It's like we like the pattern, but then when something different comes up, we pay attention. And that thing that I'm hearing or seeing, I only have a couple of questions to myself. Can I eat it? Can it eat me? Can I mate with it? That's it.
So the but is really the backbone of your story structure, because it's making, how can I say this? It's the reason you have your ending to your story, right? It's the turn. It's what takes you from the beginning to the end. You have to have that turn to go from the beginning to the end. You have to have that change. And it's really the backbone of your story structure, I think. But to Douglas's point with the running shoes, if you have to sit down and write something and you get stuck and you write out your statement, your truth, something that no one can dispute. I love ice cream. Maybe that's your statement. This is a 18th century house. That is your statement. The but is going to force you to create a story around it.
And that doesn't.
That will lead you to your conclusion.
And even though it might be a challenge or a problem, it doesn't have to be negative.
Right.
Let me give you another great example. There are two folks who we look to who have inspired us to do this, to do and but therefore. And we've got two other story acts, but those are the ones we're really focused on right now. The first is a guy named Randy Olson. He's a scientist turned filmmaker. He's the apostle for and but therefore. But let me tell you where he got it from. There's a show, an animated series called South Park. Trey, what's the guy's name? Matt Stone and Trey Parker. Okay, those are the creators. I read in a book written by Randy Olson, I read that he was inspired by them. So I Googled Matt Stone, Trey Parker, and but therefore. And guess what I found? They did a seminar at the Tisch School at NYU. This is what they said. I think it was Matt. I can't remember who is who, but he goes, this is what we do in our writer's room. And he has like this imaginary board that he writes on. He goes, you know, if we say this happened and this happened and this happened, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
You got to say this happened, but this happened, therefore this happened. This is exactly what the guys from South Park do. All we're doing is taking that structure. These create beats in your story. It keeps things moving along. It's not so much that the but is a negative. It's different.
Just
let me
turn.
Let me give you a real example from a commercial. I was up late one night watching ESPN, and this commercial came on, and it was LeBron James doing an ad about hunger where he's partnering with Walmart. And this is what he said. I could not believe it. Here's the and part. Hunger is something way too many kids and families struggle with. You can't dispute that. I was one of those kids. Wow, you really can't dispute that. Growing up, my mom did everything she could to help keep food on our table. But she couldn't have done it without the support of our community. That's why Walmart's Fight Hunger Spark Change program means so much to me. So the but sometimes also can take things up a level. Like you're talking about shoes, but you're really talking about being able to be motivated. You're talking about hunger. You're really talking about how the community helped you through it. So it's just a turn. But there's LeBron James using a super simple script, and I think it's really powerful.
When did you guys, and I know you were doing a lot of storytelling in your past career, but when did you guys come up with the idea to actually build this business?
Great question. I was working at a global multinational company in the fintech space. I guess we can say who it is. I was working at Mastercard, and I was doing a lot of speech writing for the C-suite there. And an executive came to me and said, my team is putting together decks, PowerPoints that just have riddled with data and facts. There's no story. Can you help with storytelling? And truth be told, Vinny, from a speech writing standpoint, when I thought about storytelling, I thought about anecdotes. Like, George Washington did this, or, Abraham Lincoln did this, or quotes. I didn't really know what storytelling was, not the way I know now. Anyway, I said, sure, not knowing whether or not I could do it. And I started Googling storytelling and business storytelling. And names like Steve Jobs came up, Carmine Gallo, Nancy Duarte, Robert McKee, this whole constellation of experts. Steve Jobs, I'll just give you the quick example that will solidify it. He said, when he had the MP3 player that was the iPod, there were a bunch of MP3 players on the market. So what was different about this? There were differences, but the main thing is Steve Jobs said, it's 1,000 songs in your pocket. So he used a metaphor to make it simple and to make it relatable. That's storytelling in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you came up with the idea, I guess, when that happened. When did you actually say, I'm going to actually switch over and build this company? Because with the script writing for, politicians, Mastercard, it was... It was, I guess, your own company too, right? Or were you actually getting salary?
No, I was getting salary. I was working at Mastercard and helping. I was writing speeches, but on the side, I was helping people with business storytelling. And I sort of took off, so I put together a course, and that took off within the company. When I had a chance after 5 or 6 years to kind of do my own thing, I took it and started my own company.
So at 5 to 6 years was when you actually, instead of doing a part-time, you went full-time?
Yep.
What do you think that gap was of taking 5 to 6 years to transition full time?
Well, I didn't know the storytelling I'd only been doing for like a year and a half. Toward the end of my time there, it was after that was such a huge success. I was kind of like, we had a reorg, and I had a choice. I could either stay and do some other things as well, or I could take a package and bolt. So I took the package after having this great success. And the storytelling that I did then was really good, but it has really evolved. It's a lot more interactive, a lot more exercises, more tactical, more practical. But it was the experience there that made me think, all right, there's something here. I really should pursue it.
And we've incorporated a lot of feedback too that we've gotten from participants who have taken our training to say, this was great, but this was really what I really wanted to focus on. And so we've really kind of fine-tuned our workshops to making it extremely simple, extremely practical. We like to say less theory and more doing, better results. Because we really put exercises in there in the workshop that you can do and use right away as soon as you get off the call. You can apply it.
You can have a great product. You can have a great system in place, yet you need clients. So where were those clients coming from?
So we did tons of networking on social media, blog posts. We had a network from our previous lives. We ended up having a lot of clients in Africa. Mm-hmm. I was in Morocco for, how long was it? 2 weeks?
3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks. That was one trip. I've been to Rwanda. That was a second trip. I remember I did a session with women who were all CEOs, including the youngest female CEO on the entire continent of Africa. And I remember we were standing and I was going through something with her, like really close up. And after we went through all this stuff, she's like, this is just life-changing. So it was basically networking, people we know, but also social networking as well.
Has that still been kind of just networking mostly for your business these days? Yeah.
We're trying to we've got kind of a pipeline put together that is, I think, working well. Part of the key is, back to the consistency and the execution. You've got to have a pipeline and you got to keep feeding it. And it's taken a while to get better at it, but I think we're getting there.
Now, Lisa, when did you jump into the picture? So 5-6 years, it was kind of Douglas was doing it part-time. Mm-hmm. Were you part of it at that time, or?
All behind the scenes, just helping with things like designing graphics, designing marketing collateral, helping with the website, not so much the training part. I think I started the training part a year ago last May. We did a webinar workshop for entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And that was my first time on camera doing a live workshop. And it was really good that it was female entrepreneurs, I think, for my first time, because I think we had a little bit of a rapport going. And so that was my first time I dipped my toes in the water of doing it. And now I love it. I love doing it.
But these were women, these are women, sorry to interrupt, these are women from Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. Ghana is one of the great hotbeds for women entrepreneurship on the planet.
Yep.
And, look, Vinny, I thought I did a great job on that, workshop. At least Marie did too. Thought that she did a great job. But nobody reached out to me to say anything. They all reached out to her, and it wasn't just because she was a woman. She just did a great job.
Well, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Because of Douglas's background, he probably at least put the outline together of your courses, yes. Right? And Lisa, you had to, I guess, get a good understanding of the courses before you can teach the courses. How was that training going along when you're getting taught by your husband? I bet that was very smooth.
Yeah.
Oh, Vinny.
Well, yeah. And we still have very smooth days. When I first started helping with the training, I would say we would have we script out the course, and I would say, okay, I'm going to take that part because that's the part I feel most comfortable with. Because it takes a while to learn all of it. So I would take the parts that I felt most comfortable with. I think I'm comfortable now with everything, but I would take that content and focus on that. But we really do, when we're updating courses, creating new things, even social media, we don't agree 5 times. Well, I was going to say 5 times out of 10, maybe 6 times out of 10, we don't agree. And you fight it out, right? And you say, whoever can make the best point wins. And then we change it to whatever that is. It's not easy working with your spouse. It's not easy on the kids when mommy and daddy have to say, stay upstairs and be quiet for the next 3 hours. We're doing a webinar. But you find a rhythm and you create a schedule, and we make sure, even though we do work over weekends, we make sure that at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, we shut down the computers, we sit down and we have family supper, and then we go and we sit down on the couch and we watch AGT as a family or Masked Singer as a family, whatever the kids want to watch. It's really important to make time for your family, and this is important, but you just have to be really good with your time management. You have to be really organized. We make a to-do list every day. We look at it every day. We re-rank the priority of what needs to get done, and you just have to stick to that, or you will drown and get lost as an entrepreneur in everything that you have to do, because you're the CEO, the CMO, the CFO, everything, the UFO, Douglas said, you're everything. And so you do have to be organized and really use your time wisely.
Okay, I want to just dive deeper into this right here. So you said that you guys talk it over, and whoever makes the best point wins it out. Because I'm engaged. I'm gonna be getting married soon. I've learned this, at least, that sometimes when someone's passionate about something and the other person's passionate about something, there's usually not a decider of who's right in the end. I've learned that if my significant other is very, very passionate about it, and I kind of want to just be done with it, I let her win and just say, okay, yes, dear.
You know, we are filming this, right? You got that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's fine. I tell her this all the time. She's fine.
I'm kidding.
She knows
I'm
that.
kidding.
So with you two, is there, like, how do you define a winner of who's making the best point? Because you have to be giving and taking, and you might feel that you are making the better point than your partner, but there has to be someone that makes the final say or makes the choice, or how does that work?
Great question.
Okay,
Look,
so
okay, go ahead. You do it.
Back in the day, 20 years ago, when I was with American Express for a long time, and when I would interview for a different position within the company, we had what they called evidence-based interviewing. So you couldn't just say, I'm really good at sales. You had to give evidence to back it up, right? So when we're arguing something, I usually try to show some evidence or some statistics or something to prove my point.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. I think you just have to you got to put a thermometer into the steak and figure out how hot it is. At least that's what I do sometimes. And what I mean by that is you just got to decide if she really thinks this is the way to go. I will typically I'll try to give in on that. Look, if it's something that's going to affect the P&L, then we really have to kind of fight it out. But rarely, it's more about like graphics or layout. It's not really about messaging. She's very helpful on a lot of things, but especially I might come up with a sentence and she will help me simplify it. Mm-hmm. There is a complementary aspect to it, complementary with an E. That's super important so you don't get into a bubble. You get to hear another point of view. That's critical. But Vinny, it's also important to have compliment with an I, meaning, hey, that was awesome. And we're pretty good about that, making sure to not just to put slap your hand on her back, but really just to say that was great. I'll give you a quick example. We do our scripts for our workshops. She puts them on an Excel spreadsheet. I would never have thought of this. And that way you're reading left to right, which is how you read. It's so much easier. And something she does every time we have a workshop, actually we got kind of a set thing now, but I remember when she first suggested it, I didn't quite get it, but now it's great. So fun, a little tip for everybody else. If you're doing a presentation on Zoom or on StreamYard or something, put it on Excel spreadsheet. It makes it a lot easier.
If we're talking in, let's say, 5 years from now, where is Communicate for Impact going to be? Or where Lisa and Douglas going to be? Where do you guys envision yourself going in the next 5 years?
Well, I think one of the things that we would like to be doing is more in-person workshops. We started out doing that, and then with COVID, everything went, Zoom related. It'll be interesting to see if people are hungry for in-person training going forward, or if they like the ease of just being able to log in and then be done as soon as it's over, or not having to travel and all that. It'll be really interesting to see what the desire is for that, I think, going forward. I think the other thing is we want to have a lot more on-demand offerings, so people have the flexibility. As we said, we're working on that right now. We're working on an on-demand course as we speak that we hope to be ready within the next 30 days. So people can check in with us on that to see how that's going. But what do you think, Douglas?
My thought is, first of all, we want to build on our house. We have a nice backyard, enough room to kind of build out. I would love to have, in the perfect world, like a studio for us where we could do, we could film stuff, but we could have podcasts and, just state-of-the-art everything. That is what I would really like to have.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'm gonna finish it off with this question right here. Okay, who's gonna go first, Lisa or Douglas?
I don't know. What's the question?
All right, we'll go Lisa first. All right, now. Okay, online dating is a big thing. And we already talked about your guys's, right? Okay, with Match right there. If you could give one nugget for someone listening right now and they're getting on to online dating and they're trying to put their story together, okay, what's one nugget, one suggestion that they should think about when they're putting it together? Lisa, you're up first.
Could be a new revenue stream.
I think it's important to be extremely authentic and really say what you like and don't like and what you're looking for, and maybe what you're not looking for. Be very transparent, and it will weed out a lot of inappropriate suitors.
All right. What about you, Douglas?
Honestly, I was going to say the same thing. Be yourself. Be yourself.
Don't try to come up with a persona,
Yeah, be creative. Be creative in being yourself. In other words, don't just say you like music. Say, what did I used to do? I'm trying to think what I used to do.
I don't know.
Like I would just come up with like a list of stuff like Beatles, apple pie, Yankees. Just like put a list together and just see if that resonates with anybody. So the first thing is be yourself. The second thing is to be creative about it.
I love it. Well, and then if anyone's listening right now and they need help kind of building their story, want to learn how to build their story, what's the best platform for them to find you guys, to go to your platform, to reach out to you guys? What's the best way?
So, Vinny, did you put the landing page link up?
Yes.
Okay, there's a landing page link for us that people can subscribe to our weekly newsletter called Story Direct, where we curate some of the best business storytelling articles out there each week and send them directly to your inbox. That gives you a sense of how other people are using storytelling business. And then there's some other offerings on there, training offerings. We have free lunch and learns on Wednesdays for an hour that people can register for. We also have a free download of the worksheet so people can actually work through and but therefore that we covered today. So if they have some content they need to create, they can download that worksheet and that will help them with that.
And we have our book.
And we have a book. We have a book that's rooted in business storytelling called Win with Decency. And we show you real world business examples of how leaders have used gratitude, generosity, empathy, vulnerability,
humility
to be more competitive in business.
So you said go to your website, right? And
they can go to our website, or there's a landing page link, I believe, in the podcast.
So if you've got the landing page link, that's really your first place to go. Because it's loaded up with stuff. And then Communicate4IMPACT.com, and it's Communicate4IMPACT.com is our website.
Perfect. I'm pretty sure I'm on your
yes.
Okay.
Story Direct.
Okay. Yes. All right. I look forward to reading that stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for being honest and being real. I mean, I love the communication. You can tell that it's definitely a fun work environment building out your guys' workshop. Hopefully everyone got some great nuggets. Please subscribe, please share, go to the website, go to the show notes and subscribe. Thanks everyone.
Awesome.
Have a great one.
Awesome.
Well, thank you
Thanks,
so
Woody.
much.
Appreciate it.